I'm back with another celebrity glow up video today. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and today we're talking about the adorable Sabrina Carpenter, who seems to have really become that next it girl of pop these days. Style-wise, I think a lot of people are interested in her glow up because her hair and makeup these days really seem to suit her overall image quite well, and it looks like she's developing an iconic style of her own. So let's talk about Sabrina Carpenter's style changes over the years and why her current style is working so well for her. So before we get started, I just want to make it clear that in this video, we're not talking about plastic surgery or any sort of cosmetic procedures. Maybe she got some work done. Who knows? She's a celebrity at the end of the day, and it's her job to look a certain way, but she's also grown into her looks over the years, and I personally don't see huge changes in her face, at least not yet. But more important than that, I just think it's way more productive and realistic for us regular people to remain focused on topics that we can implement more easily, like hair and makeup. There's no judgment, but altering the face in more permanent ways is just not what we're focusing on in this video. So, going back to Sabrina Carpenter, she has this really lovely and sweet image to her, right? Like, she's really adorable. And if you remember from my video about youthful versus mature faces, I talked about a lot of facial traits and proportions that give the face that youthful and cute impression. And as you can probably guess, Sabrina has a lot of those features. Width to length ratio wise, her face is definitely on the short side, and even in the horizontal proportions, her forehead is slightly longer than her middle and lower thirds, and that resembles the facial proportions of a baby's or a child's face. She's also got these full, very robust and round frontal cheeks, and her irises are quite large compared to the actual size of her eyes, so these are all features and proportions that we would normally associate with a cute, sweet, and youthful looking face. Something that's especially unique about Sabrina's face though is that she has pretty wide temples, so styles that show the width of her face across the temples tend to make her face appear shorter and wider because the width of her face becomes really highlighted in these styles. So if we look back at her style changes over the years, she starts wearing more and more styles that cover that temple region, and it's also quite obvious that these styles allow our gaze to focus a little more on her eyes instead of noticing how wide her face and her forehead appears. So it looks like she kept a relatively similar hairstyle for a few years with the middle part and the long face framing layers that covered the sides of her forehead and her temples, but her current style with the shorter curtain bangs, that seems to be what everyone associates her with as sort of her iconic style, right? Now here's where things get really interesting, because with facial proportions, theoretically the ultimate goal should be to find a balance that can offset certain proportions within our faces. For example, if the face appears wide and short, we want to offset that with a hairstyle or a makeup style that can add a narrowing or a lengthening effect to the face. So in Sabrina's case, her previous style with the long face framing layers and the middle part, that would theoretically be considered more suitable for her proportions because it adds that narrowing effect. The curtain bangs, on the other hand, does a good job at covering her temples and framing the cheekbones, but because this style covers more of the forehead as well, technically this is a style that shortens Sabrina's face even more, which goes against the theory of facial proportions. And because Sabrina is also quite short and small in her frame, I think I read that she's just under 5 feet tall. When you have such a small frame, the length of your neck can appear somewhat short relative to the head. So technically, styles that cover the forehead can also easily make the neck area appear more closed off and even shorter. So then, despite all of these points that go against her proportions theoretically, why is it that the shorter curtain bangs are still working so well for Sabrina? There's a few reasons, with the first being her eyebrows. Sabrina has these full, very thick, very dark eyebrows. They're beautiful and they add this boldness and almost a cheeky, sort of playful vibe to her look, but they also tend to overpower her other features that are much softer in shape and also lighter in color, like her eyes and the cheeks and the soft lips. The size of her facial features are still big, so the eyebrows don't completely dominate the face, but there's definitely some juxtaposition created between the boldness of her brows and the softness of her other facial features. Now, some people might prefer this juxtaposition and argue that it's what makes her face more interesting, which I can agree to some extent. But in my humble opinion, partially covering her eyebrows with bangs and making them less of a focal point within the face actually allows for more emphasis to be placed on her other features, especially her eyes and her cheeks. Because the bangs cover the forehead and the eyebrows, naturally our gaze focuses more on features within the midsection of the face. So the end result really helps with bringing out that soft, very sweet and adorable side of Sabrina's face, and that effect is amplified even more with the super over-the-top blush style that really accentuates the prominence and the roundness of her cheeks. Also, Sabrina has quite a sharp and pointy chin, and that naturally becomes a little more highlighted as well when the forehead is covered. Like I said, Sabrina's upper third is longer than her middle and lower third, so without the bangs, our gaze is drawn more towards her forehead and we don't notice the sharpness of her chin as much, but covering the forehead has the opposite effect. Why I'm bringing up the shape of the chin is because sharpness in the chin is actually a feature that can add some length to the face visually. And a sharp chin combined with soft, full lips can add a bit of maturity and sexiness to the overall look as well. Like I said, Sabrina naturally has a lot of traits that make her look inherently cute and youthful, but being a female pop music artist, sex appeal is a huge selling point of a brand image and identity. And we can definitely see in her makeup styles with the overlined lips and the cat eyes, and her outfits as well. These are all styles that attempt to bring out more of that cute yet sexy image. So I think overall her hair and makeup styles are doing a really good job in enhancing that adorable and sweet impression that Sabrina naturally has, and also in adding a touch of the more sexy vibe without the end result looking too unnatural on her. And in that process, there are certain visual effects that might go against the theory of facial proportions, like the curtain bangs making her face appear even shorter, the neck might also appear more closed off, etc. But some of these effects can also be minimized with different styling techniques. So instead of full blunt bangs that cover the forehead entirely, a thinner style of curtain bangs leaves some parts of the forehead and eyebrows visible, so it's a bit less harsh on the proportions and the overall facial length doesn't appear as short. Or using long hair down the sides or more open necklines can also help with making the neck appear more elongated, etc. So I think Sabrina Carpenter's current style is a really good example of how trying to offset the uniqueness of our own proportions and features might not always be the most effective at finding our best styles. Because those styles don't necessarily highlight the features that add character to our faces and give our faces that distinct uniqueness. And I think this shows how important the inherent impression of our faces can be in defining our signature style. The point is, at the end of the day, we gotta learn the rules so we can break them, right? So if you learned something new about facial proportions or the important relationship between facial impression and personal style today, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on your notifications so you don't miss out on any insightful knowledge that we share on this channel. I hope you found everything helpful today, and I'll see you in my next video. Until then, stay unique and stay gorgeous.